welcome back to the Health and Safety Digest, a special podcast by Astutis. And as ever, I am your host through this guide, this voyage of health, safety, and environmental training, digital content writer at Astutis, Toby Howell. And I'm delighted during this episode to be joined by international account manager at Astutis, but also environmental extraordinaire Oliver Newman, who joins the show to discuss the Astutis offering of the IEMA Pathways to Net Zero course, a fundamentally game-changing environmental health and safety training course that offers to give a blueprint to organisations who want to neutralise their carbon emissions and eventually go net zero. So we are joined by Ollie this week to discuss the course and how it can benefit your business. So without further ado, let's get to our chat with Ollie. I'm delighted to say that we're finally being joined by Oliver Newman. Ollie, you have been with Astutis for nearly 12 years, but in total you have over 20 years of rich experience in the training sector. Over the last 6 months, you have held the title of Environmental Sustainability Specialist. And quite frankly, there is no one better place to sit down with to engage and talk all things environment and the new IEMA Pathways to Net Zero course. Oliver Newman, welcome to the Health and Safety Digest.
Wow, thank you very much for the introduction. Much appreciated.
How are we doing today?
Very well indeed.
Well, I'm delighted to finally have you on because obviously, as a big part of the podcast, we would love to delve into all the environmental aspects of our training courses. And one of them being, of course, the Environmental Pathways to Net Zero. But before we get onto that, could you delve into, what you do here at Astutis, what your role is?
Okay, so as you say, I'm the Environmental Sustainability Specialist. My job title is International Account Manager. So my role is purely worldwide, so right across the globe, from the UK right up to far reaches of the world in Australia, North America. We do a lot of business also in sort of the Middle East and Africa as well. So essentially my job, I look after and advise clients on sustainability training courses. We offer courses for all levels of staff. So whether that would be executives who need training to understand the basics of sustainability and what their role is in order to influence sustainability within their organization and the wider field, right down to sort of what we could call shop floor level staff, so the workforce, and for them to understand what they can do then from a sustainability perspective to influence things. And then we go right back up then through their managers and how their role can impact and support that, and also then the professionals within sustainability. So those people whose job it is to manage environmental sustainability for organizations, and we do qualifications to support them in their understanding and their roles.
So tell me if I'm incorrect, but you are the person for sustainability in Astutis. When it comes to sustainability, Ollie Newman is the person for the job.
That is correct, yeah. So
fantastic.
I mean, I guess my role is twofold here. So from a commercial perspective, obviously I have a job to do, which is to sell courses, and I'm tasked with supporting customers with their training requirements. So initially what we do is have a conversation with them, advise on appropriate courses that are for them, discuss what format of training is most appropriate to suit their needs. But I guess the other side of it is also a sort of a moral obligation. So sustainability is something that, strongly appeals to me. I want, to do the right thing, to support and help with the sustainability agenda and do my bit, I guess, to sort of save the planet, as it were. And so I'm very active sort of on social media, commenting, sharing posts about sustainability, and really trying to get that message out there to people who maybe aren't on this path, don't understand, what sustainability is about and how they can potentially impact it themselves. I think historically, health and safety has been, the most important sort of area of sort of compliance training. So every manager will go through the IOSH Managing Safely course or similar. But we haven't seen that with environmental sustainability up to this point. But I think that's where we're heading. So, themes of training sort of have grown to become important, and they drive behavior change. So, as I said, examples of this are health and safety, but also things like more recently diversity and inclusion. And sustainability for me is going to be the next one, along the rank for that. From my perspective, I think if you want your teams to promote and push corporate sustainability agenda, then training is required to nurture and drive that change. Sustainability is a key to a better future for humans on this planet, and climate change is a very serious issue that every person can impact, whether it be recycling, using less energy, moving to a more plant-based diet, or just reducing your use of plastic.
I could not have put it any better myself, Ollie. Now, I'm going to broach you with a rather broad question now, so I do apologise. But as we all know, we are fighting the uphill battle of climate change. We hear about it every day in the media, positive or negative, we do hear about it. In your view, how is that battle going?
So in my role, I see fantastic things happening with a move to sustainable and secure energy through renewable sources, to solutions to plastic pollution, and net zero plans from most of the world's countries and major organisations. When people pull together for a common cause, it is amazing what can be achieved. And I'm very hopeful and positive we will get there.
It's entirely fascinating because we are facing a battle. We all have our fingers crossed. I know personally because I've just finished concluding the Health, Safety and Environmental Training Report 2022-2023, and a large portion of that we talk to our partners and we ask them about their attitudes towards the environmental agenda, and thankfully everything is pointing in the right direction. So fingers crossed that continues. Now I have a left field question now for you, Wally. Organisations are at a record rate looking to enhance their environmental credentials. And at the same time, they're trying to avoid the potential of greenwashing and the recent phenomenon of green hushing. Now, I'll just define green hushing, being that companies are reluctant to showcase their endeavours towards pro-environmental agendas in case they are criticised for not being sincere or for doing it for public relations reasons. In that vein, how important is it for you personally to feel that companies can showcase their personal or their organisational fight towards climate change?
So I think, there's lots of research out there that, people want to work for sustainable businesses, that consumers want to purchase from sustainable businesses. So actually, getting that message out there and showing off your sustainable credentials for a business is absolutely crucial. And I believe that will only become more important, as we head towards sort of 2030, 2050. So I think it's imperative that organizations do tell people what they're doing, do set their own net zero targets, do decarbonize, but obviously do that properly. So greenwashing has become a problem, but all that will end up doing is being publicized, and organizations will look foolish for trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. So do it absolutely, but make sure you are doing it correctly.
I couldn't agree further. It's an incredible landscape out there right now, with organizations kind of tug of war in terms of they want to show this, but they're afraid that they might look insincere. It's fascinating. Anyway, that rather adequately takes me on to my next question. I know firsthand the level of research that goes into trying to understand an organization's emissions. It can get quite complicated. But there is now a groundbreaking course that essentially hands organizations a blueprint, a magical blueprint. This blueprint will enable organizations to neutralize their emissions. This is, of course, the IEMA Pathways to Net Zero, and you, Ollie, have done it.
Indeed, I have. So I was very honoured and privileged to be, the guinea pig for our brand new IEMA Pathways to Net Zero online course. We've been delivering the course actually since June last year, and been far and away in all my years of releasing brand new courses into the marketplace. This has been far and away the most popular course that we've ever released. So every single course we've ran on a monthly basis since June has been fully subscribed. So that's fantastic news. So it shows there's a huge market for this. So I was delighted to follow on from my previous training back at the end of last year, the IEMA Foundation Certificate, and do the brand new Pathways to Net Zero course.
And I can't wait to hear more about it. But before we get into the real meat of the course, per se, who exactly might want to look into taking it?
Okay, so, I mean, anybody can take the course. There's no restrictions specifically, but I guess the target market really from our perspective are people who are maybe directly involved in supporting the organisation with net zero planning. So that could be the executives, maybe for smaller organisations, or where you've got sort of a HSE or a sustainability team, or even a green team within the organisation where they've involved general staff in sort of net zero and sustainability. They would be the ideal people then to take this course.
Okay. And how important do you think this course can be to organisations around the world who are looking to authentically improve their environmental performance?
Yeah, in order to affect change, I think you need to have a plan. And so really that's where this course comes into its own. It gives learners the opportunity to understand the why in terms of net zero understanding, the terminology, the reasoning behind having a net zero plan, and all the basics really, and then goes on then to start looking at the practicalities of things such as greenhouse gas accounting, working out your carbon footprint. And once you've got that sort of baseline carbon footprint, then you can start making a plan on how to establish your net zero strategy and decarbonize your business.
Well, I can tell that you've taken the course, Ollie. Just from that reply, out of curiosity, what was the most interesting module of the course?
I guess for me, probably the greenhouse gas accounting module. I think this is an area where a lot of people tend to struggle a little bit, understanding scopes 1, 2, and 3, and on their emissions. And I guess once you've got your head around it, it's a lot easier to understand and not quite as daunting as most people sort of think,
Okay. Now, obviously, a part of the course is, understanding everything to do with greenhouse. As you say, there's different modules. For you personally, what was, if you can, I know this is very generalized, but if there was one thing that you could take away from the course, what was that one thing for you?
Probably a follow on to my last answer, really, that actually, net zero is not as daunting as many people think. A lot of people will look into it, and although greenhouse gas accounting is called accounting for a reason, and kind of, I guess, is most suitable for accountants, it is something that anyone can do. So there's some fantastic resources online that support people's understanding of this subject, and a lot of those are free. So actually, if you want to do your own sort of greenhouse gas accounting, work out your carbon footprint, there are resources available, and actually lots of people who are thoroughly engaged in the subject that I'm sure if you reached out to them actually with questions and for asking for support, then I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help.
And as I was alluding to in the previous question, there are different parts of the course, and as you would expect with a accredited course, there is an exam. How did you get on with that exam?
Okay, so the exam was a 20 question multiple choice exam. You have 30 minutes to sit and can use your notes. So it's an open book exam, and check your answers if you're not sure. So I guess it's not overly taxing in terms of that, but obviously the point here is that the exam is there to test your understanding and make sure you've understood the content of the course itself.
And I ask that because I know we both have sat the IEMA Foundation Certificate for Environmental Management, and there is a open book exam. I believe that was for an hour. Now, I remember when I first sat the exam, I was daunted. I was I was getting a little bit shivery. I thought, okay, you've got the internet, you've got your notes, you can, there's assurances there. But I don't think it's as simple as people thinking, okay, I can just Google the questions and the answers will magically appear. Is that the advice maybe you would give to others?
Absolutely. No, and this is not it's not a course that you can go straight into the exam and think you can Google the answers, because you haven't got that base understanding of the content. So absolutely, one, you can work through as quickly as you can, and some people may be comfortable working through the course materials, reading them, and then sitting the exam. But not one to just try and Google the answers, because it'd be very difficult without having the base understanding to actually find those answers and be sure that they are correct.
Now that you've finished the course successfully, I might add, what advice do you have for prosperous organizations around the world who are interested in it?
So I think I benefited from doing the IEMA Foundation certificate, as you mentioned, prior to doing this course, which gave me a really good grounding in sort of environmental issues and sustainability. So as a natural progression and a follow-on to that's where the sort of net zero I found really sort of enhanced and improved my knowledge regarding sustainability overall. And I guess if you are starting on your sort of net zero journey, or you're fresh within the sustainability field, then actually doing a sort of qualification first, such as the IEMA Foundation, makes a lot of sense to me. So I think that would probably be the piece of advice I would take out of that sort of, if you're new in the subject, then net zero is great and you can do it as a standalone, but actually, it makes sense to me, I think, to look at a wider picture view of this and look at something such as the foundation certificate, or even the NEBOSH environmental certificate. If you're a safety bod, would make sense to me as an additional course to take.
It's very, very interesting because, as you say there, we've both done the foundation certificate in environmental management, and I'm hooked. I have to say, I cannot wait. I've recently begun my learning journey with IEMA Pathways Net Zero course. I am extremely excited to see what I can bring to the business in terms of exciting environmental agendas and how we can ensure that our emissions are minimalized as soon as possible. Ollie, my final question to you today was, now that you've completed the course and its kind of structure, you know how it's feeling, what kind of course would you advise as a perfect kind of dessert to this course in terms of afterwards? So learners have just passed this course. Would you say it was the IEMA certificate in environmental management, or something alternative?
I mean, certainly the natural progression, I guess, if you've already done something such as the foundation certificate or even the NEBOSH environmental certificate, which are kind of accredited at level 3, would then to be the carry on, the follow on course from that, which would be the level 5 IEMA certificate in environmental management. That course then leads on to practitioner membership of IEMA. So it's a really good sort of progression for your career if that's where you want to go. And if you are a sustainability professional, then that is part of the pathway then to move on to chartered membership and so on. So Astutis is based in Wales, and I'm proud to say that as we sit here on the 8th of February 2023, the Welsh Government is offering 100% funding for green skills courses, including the IEMA Pathways to Net Zero. So if you live in Wales, please get in touch with us to find more about what is involved in this course using this funding.
Oliver, thank you very much for joining us on Health and Safety Digest today. That is all I have for you. I hope to have you on again soon to discuss any more environmental aspects of the health, safety and environmental training world. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Ollie once more for joining the Health and Safety Digest to discuss the IEMA Pathways Net Zero course. And if you are like me and you want more information on the course, you can find it on our website. That's www.astutis.com. Alternatively, you can find us on all social media platforms. You know what to do by now. Just type in Astutis and you will find us. You can also contact Ollie himself. Email Ollie, oliver.newman@astutis.com, and you can have direct access with Ollie so you can ask him any specific questions you have concerning the IEMA Pathways Net Zero offering or any other environmental training courses. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back very, very soon. So until next time, stay safe.